try to take a deep breath, even though like I'm frustrated because I don't want to see this kind of like anger. I have to appreciate that they're frustrated because of different things. Hey friends, and welcome back to my channel. I'm AmandaMuse, mom of two, content creator, podcast host, also traveler apparently. In the last 6 weeks, I have been away a ton, and I've noticed a couple of things. For sure how I'm feeling, a little tired. But also how it's impacting my role as a wife and a mother. And it also got me thinking about how different it is when you work from home versus if you are traveling for work, or if you're just, Monday through Friday or whatever your schedule is, away from your home and away from your family, and how that impacts you and your relationship with your family. So, with all of that intro, I thought what I would do is just share, a pretty like casual conversation about how I reconnect with my family when I'm not home as often, because it is taking its toll. And we should talk. Okay, so let's start this by throwing it out there that usually I am home. I am not often traveling without my kids, and if I am, it's little day trips here and there. I'm usually not away overnight. If you are a person who has to travel or spend, consecutive days away from your family, it is hard, okay? It is hard when you're away. It's hard when you come back. It's hard to manage all the expectations of everyone and also all of the responsibilities that you have. And I just kind of want to lead with that because I feel like that's one of the biggest things, is like, how do you deal with how hard it is and then the subsequent guilt that comes with it? My husband is a very autonomous, independent person, and he doesn't need me to like prepare meals or anything like that. However, I do feel like I just want to leave the house in top form before I go. So I did all the laundry, not for the first trip, for the second trip. The first trip, it was like, blah. I decided to let the guilt wash over when it showed up, but to not like live in that space, I figure I'm paying for this trip. I've got everything going on to support my being away at home. The husband's home. If I needed childcare here and there, that was already organized. Like, everything's already taken care of. So what is the use in me, while on said trip, feeling guilty and worrying about everything going on at home? There's no use. So that's probably one of my biggest tips, is like, just embrace the fact that you're on this trip and be present where you are. The other thing I find really important is when you are taking trips and things, is to understand like what your boundaries are. So for example, I consider myself to be an extroverted extrovert, but that said, I'm also aware of like how to conserve my energy, how to prepare for trips like this. And essentially what I did for like almost a month probably leading up to my trips was to just like buckle down and get as much work done as possible, don't procrastinate, and spend a bunch of time with my kids. Let's talk about the kid situation. So my kids are 5 and 7, very aware of time, very aware of a parent traveling, because my husband is a pilot and travels a ton. So they're very used to, not happy with, but used to, that dynamic of daddy going to work, spending a couple days away, and then coming home. They are not used to mommy doing that. I try not to call too much when I'm away. Now, this obviously will depend on how long you're away and what that trip looks like, but it's almost like if you call too much, the children are constantly reminded that you're away and are reminded of your absence. And I wanted to avoid that as much as possible. And it worked. So the kids are busy, they're hanging out with their dad, they're doing fun things. And then when I get home, what I try to do is spend as much quality time as possible. Now, with my kids being so little, I find it kind of easy, like I got home on a Saturday afternoon. Sunday was a beautiful sunny day. We all jumped in the car and we went on a hike. As a family, we love doing that. So whatever it is that your family loves to do, go do that for a couple hours, And then when we came back, we just like cuddled on the sofa and watched a bunch of TV. And what I did that they didn't really notice is that as they were watching the movie, I was kind of like secretly working on my phone on the sofa. I don't normally do that. Like, I really love to be present in the moment in situations, but I feel you gotta prioritize. This is the difference between being a content creator as a single younger person perhaps, or just a single person in general, versus one where you have children. It's a completely different dynamic, and people need you in a different way in your personal life, and you have to be there. So that's really helped with sort of navigating the emotions with my children. And I will say one of my kids happens to be slightly fiery. I wonder where they get that from. And I can be kind of fiery. And so what I've been trying to do is, rather than like fight fire with fire, which we all know does not work, when I see a little outburst from one of my kids, I try to take a deep breath, even though like I'm frustrated because I don't want to see this kind of like anger. I have to appreciate that they're frustrated because of different things. They're maybe feeling hurt, maybe feeling like they want more of mommy. And so what I try to do is respond with patience, talk slowly, and then I kind of just do the old, like, do you want a hug? Come here. Come give a hug. And then I sometimes play it up with like a love bomb. So it's a thing I just made up last night. It's probably a thing where like this bomb's gonna go off, and when it does, you're gonna get a full on like tickle love smooch fest. And usually it like totally disarms my kid and they end up cracking up. So whatever it is with your kid, you'll figure it out. But I found that that's really helping just bring us together, but also just like physical touch. You know, like I was saying before, watching the movie while actually just like touching arm to arm or like under a blanket, all those things really help your kids feel connected to you, and it's working. So aside from my children and finding ways to connect with them, I also have a partner and I have a husband that I would like to also connect with on a level that isn't just like mom and dad, you know? But you know what we did? I got help, got a babysitter, and took Dean out for dinner, or we took each other out for dinner to spend some quality time together, and it's made a world of difference. Because the reality is, this past few weeks we felt like ships passing in the night. You know, I mean, even when I left for my trip, half the time he'd be away for 5 days or 4 days or something. Come home, I'd have already left for my flight. Do you know what I mean? So we're just like, and you have to stay connected with people. So Dean and I like to text. We'll FaceTime, just quick little calls here and there. But I find it's those like, make the effort and get that quality time together to be people outside of parents. Another person that I wanted to connect with, or actually two other people, were Patra and my dad. So Patra and my dad are two people who often step in to help me with childcare. And honestly, my life would not tick along without their help. And so prioritizing them is also very important to me. And if you can kind of see a pattern here, you know, when you're super busy, you have to decide where you're focusing your time, what's the most important, and the rest will fall where they fall, be as it may. Whatever the sentence is, you know what I'm saying. And so what I did is, it also was Easter this April. It's been a busy month. I realized there was a really special place I could take my family for a lovely Easter brunch, and Dean was away. And so I invited my dad, and I spoiled my dad and my kids, and we got all dressed up and fancy. I'm sure you've seen the vlog. If not, I will leave a link below or up in the iCard. Well, excuse me, Miss Nora. But yeah, it was just a really nice way to say thank you for all the help that I get, you know, the babysitting here and there. It's just, it's kind of a tricky season of life when you have little kids and you're trying to do it all, you know, because you just can't. And it's definitely not a solo adventure. Like, there are people helping you along the way. And so it's really got me thinking about my relationships to others in real time. And the most important people to me are my family. And of course, my chosen family are the ones who help me out all the time and support me, you know, to make this ship stay afloat. So food for thought on this overcast day where there will never be heat, because apparently I live in a country where it's warm for like about 6 weeks and then it's winter the rest of the time. What is happening? Anyway, I would love to hear your comments on anything I've talked about today. Leave them below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.